When I was younger, I lived in a house in North Dakota. It was a nice two-story house with a basement. There's many stories to be told about this place. Light bulbs constantly bursting, a baby crying when I was the youngest at around 6 or so. But one sticks out to me in particular, and I remember it in very vivid detail. The basement area is where our washer and dryer were. I would sit down there and play with a few toys and just entertain myself while my mom did laundry. She finished and headed back upstairs with a basket of clean clothes. The stairs were those creepy wooden stairs with the gaps in them, typical basement stair style, but there wasn't ever anything too scary about them. I stayed down there for a moment longer as Barbie hadn't finished her dancing lessons and needed to do one or two more ballet spins or she would get in trouble. My mom or someone called for me, so I stood up and headed towards the stairs immediately. Then realized I'd forgot Barbie laying on the ground and went back to get her. As I stooped to pick her up, the bare bulb above me shattered. I turned and sprinted towards the stairs. After getting up three of them, I heard a thud of a heavy boot hitting the bottom stair. I kept running, those steps falling after at a slow, steady pace while I was pushing as hard as my legs would let me. The door to the hallway was open. My mom always left it open when we were down there in case she needed to yell for me or my brother or get us quickly. I was right at it when it slammed closed for seemingly no reason. This particular staircase ended in a neat square where the door opened, a wall on the other side of the door. The footsteps behind me hit the landing, and I turned and saw the angriest pair of red eyes that I'd ever seen. And of course, I let out an ear piercing scream and curled up in the corner with my head ducked down and sobbing hysterically. As quickly as it had happened, it was over. My mom pulled the door open and picked me up and took me out of there, trying to figure out what was going on between my sobs. Luckily, there had been plenty of evidence of something in the house, but before then, it only had been children, a teenage boy, a little girl around my age, and a baby. This new thing we discovered later on, after finding another person who'd lived there, was the father that had killed himself after killing his children in a drunken rage. And then he hung himself in the basement. Needless to say, none of us were allowed in the basement again.
My husband and I live in a very rural area in the southeast US, surrounded by woods on all sides, and don't have neighbors for probably a half a mile to a mile on either side. This is nowhere near the only creepy encounter I've had out here, but it is definitely one of the scariest. My husband and I had just gotten into a fight over something stupid, so I went to take a walk with my dog, a 5-month-old German Shepherd, to cool off. It was dusk, foggy, and quickly becoming dark, but I know these woods like the back of my hand. It had probably been about 30 minutes. I was calming down and letting Maul, named from Firefly, play around in the leaves and getting ready to turn back because it was getting quite dark. His ears perked up when he heard a loud crunching of leaves, and he stared at a dark shadow we both saw moving in the distant trees. Assuming it was a deer, I let out a sharp whistle and two distinct blasts to alert it to my presence and possibly startle it away. Some deer can get mean or territorial if you get close to them. It's a whistle my family would use to get each other's attention. That kind of sounds like a whirp whirp call. It is important to note that it is a very unique sound. The shadow stopped moving at my whistle. That's when I simultaneously noticed four things. One, the shadow of this deer was very strange, kind of hunched and stout, with no neck, and its front legs were bowed to one side. Two, the hair on Maul's back started rising, and a growl started rumbling in his chest. He's never growled at a deer before. And three, a terrible gut-wrenching feeling of dread washed over me like ice, and I realized the woods were perfectly quiet. No insects, no birds, no wind. 4. It was looking directly at us. And then we heard my whistle return to me. Two distinct blasts in the same song and pitch, but it sounded like it was buzzing. The closest thing I can describe it as is humming and whistling at the same time. Maul and I had the same idea at the same time, and that was to nope the fuck out of there, and we bolted back to the house. I have never run so fast in my life, and when we got back, we both flew inside and I bolted the door. For the rest of the night he stood at the door, fur raised and ears up listening. I have no idea what that was, but needless to say, I forgot about the fight with my husband.